Oops, I gotta get me my microphone. Be right back. Here's my microphone. Ah, okay. Microphone. Hey there, Gabriel. How are you doing? Is the microphone working properly? Let me know, please. Of course, you wouldn't know what the hell I'm saying if it wasn't working, but you probably imagined that I mean to be saying something and you can't hear me, so you should tell me whether there is anything wrong. All right. Let's see here. Just sending out a an alert, a little reminder to everyone that we are scheduled to go right now. It's getting. Oh, actually, I'll be smart for once and just do it as a reply to the message I just sent out. Okay, so hold on, guys. All right. Reply. So you reply to all. Okay. Okay. I'm online now. Now, send the link to the chat. Do the same thing for the bulletin email address. Oh, there we go. Okay. Live right now. Okay. All right. Bridget says hello. Okay. Gabriel says very good. Yeah, that my mic is coming in. Excellent. Hello there, Bridget. Hello there, Tim. How am I doing? I'm doing well. It's been a productive few days. I was able to get a lot of work done. I was able to get all of the grading done at last for the writing assignments for the midterm, and also just generally caught up on emails and whatnot, which is fantastic. It took me a long time to do that. It takes, for whatever reason, it takes a lot out of me to respond to an email. I really don't know why. I think I'm just a constitutionally a lazy, withdrawn person. Any kind of like demand for contact me just puts me into a state that it takes me a while to climb out of, and so I got to do up to 90 of these things per day sometimes. Yeah, what a rough life. I know. Jeez. Uh, anyway, doing better. Able to work on my own projects. Able to do some nice reading at last. Some good writing at last. So I'm enjoying myself. I'm just keeping abreast of the news. Just watching to see how things are developing out there. Um, and yeah, just certainly staying afloat a lot better than I was about a week ago or so. So thank you very much. And how are you guys doing? Let me know how you're doing. Let me know, say what you guys been up to, what you've been doing. If you guys have any concerns, if you guys have any topics you want to talk about and current event stuff, say we can certainly do that along with the things we need to talk about in ethics and critical thinking. Have you heard the news, Professor? No, Gabriel. What is the news? What is the news? If it's about, it looks like we are going to be doing remote education for the fall. So I have heard that. That's a plan now. Anyway, we'll see how things develop. But right now, we're working with the idea that say we are going to be doing remote education come the fall. But what's the news that you have, Gabriel? Let me know. Type it in and let me know, please. That's a very nice day. Hope everyone is able to enjoy it somehow. I got a nice window open right here. I'm able to look outside. I see right now. I see a butterfly flying. Nice monarch butterfly, just delightful. Okay. Sam says, "Greeting, Professor. Hope all is well. Thank you very much, Sam. I hope things are well with you. Things are doing pretty good at my end. How are things doing over at yours? In the fall, the virus is going to hit even bigger. Okay. All right. So Gabriel is in my critical thinking class. We have been talking about what to do when we are confronted with um, possible information regarding the future. Now, it is expected that we would likely get a return of the virus. Now, Gabriel, since you have shared this information with us, would you let us know what your sources are? Say where the numbers are coming from, predicting that it would be even bigger when it returns, because that is some serious stuff. We did expect it to return, but why are we expecting it to hit even bigger? Okay, so please send us a link to that information. Okay, just wondering if you received my email with the assignment. Let me check on that, Sam. Let me go over to my email. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes, I have gotten it, Sam. Yes, I have gotten your emails with the assignments. Thank you very much for sending those my way. Say once I'm done with this, and once I'm done getting the lectures prepared for today, I will head over there and give you a grade for the assignment. I got the source from my dad, who got it from the television. Okay. Well, here's my assignment now for you, Gabriel. I want you to go and check and see whether this actually matches up with news that you can find elsewhere. See if you can find information about, say, the return of the virus come the fall, what our expectations are, and any kind of more information we can get on that. Alex says, if we compare it to the historical flu, the first wave only affected 3 to 5 million people, and the second time it hit 20 to 30 million people. Yes, so we need to say this is the concern. Say it can come back stronger. We don't know how it is going to be coming back. Say whether it will be hitting bigger or not. These things that we have to conjecture based on, say, past records, say how quickly can it spread, say who gets affected by it, and so on. Say the influenza is a little bit different from the coronavirus in that it is pretty indiscriminate of who can get infected by it and then display all the symptoms of it. Say with the coronavirus, say it's people with more susceptible immune systems, elderly people, and so on. A lot of people can become asymptomatic carriers of it without showing that they are themselves really affected by the virus. So we need to see, say, exactly what we imagine the situation would be when we say that it could come back even bigger. Say, does that mean that that it would likely uh, affect those negatively who have not shown symptoms before but may have been carriers of it? We need to take a look at this. Okay. Sam says, "Do you believe this pandemic will ever end?" Historically, pandemics end. You know, clear up soon? No, no, I do not believe it will clear up soon. If we're talking about, say, soon within like the next few weeks, no. Do we even maybe the next few months? No. We are probably looking at this thing going well into the fall. And if they're right in suggesting that it's not going to come back in the fall, but maybe come back strong, it's going to be around for a while. But we don't know until it happens. This is a new virus. We don't have a vaccine for it yet. You know, we might develop a vaccine for it. People around the world right now are trying their best to come up with some kind of effective treatment for it. And once they say, I do think it's a pretty good bet. Sometime down the road, we will develop a treatment for it. Say whether that's going to be say within the next month, couple of months, or whatever. I think we are going to have say a vaccine developed for this. We've got a pretty good record of doing things like that. But of course, I don't know if that will happen. I only suspect that it will because of the resources, energy, just all the time being put into developing something like this. Are you staying indoors? How am I managing? I am staying indoors. I'm pretty much inside my apartment around the clock. I only go out to dump the trash out or to go get groceries if we are really in need of groceries. That's about it. But I'm kind of a homebody anyway. I don't go. I wouldn't normally go out too often unless it was to find like a place where I could be by myself. And it's been pretty manageable just finding time and space for myself here where I live. Um, but for a lot of people, say it's different and it's very very hard. A lot of people, the idea say what a good time is to go out and do things. That was never my idea of a good time exclusively. So, for people who are deprived of that, it's only going to be a lot harder for them. So, I feel for them. It's like, if someone told me that I couldn't, if it was kind of like the opposite situation, people told me that I couldn't be alone or that I couldn't be shut up someplace for a while, uh, that would affect me pretty negatively. That would affect me pretty hard. So uh, it's just the luck of the draw that I get a situation kind of like uh, meets how I deal with things anyway. But that's certainly not to put down a lot of people because there for the grace of God goes me. Okay. There's no specific info. Okay, so Gabriel says there's no specific info on the specific date on when the virus will return for the fall. There couldn't be. It just says that it will return in the fall, but this time it will be we will be more prepared for it than now. Yeah, so we are talking about likelihoods. The likelihood is that it will return in the fall. But it's more likely than not going to happen. Say, being prepared for that, hopefully that means that we will be prepared for it not only in terms of governmental procedures, say, enforcing, say, strict lockdowns and quarantines and so forth, but also kind of like mentally prepared for it. This is going to be a pretty big test of our endurance of this. Say, we it's a matter of making sure that we are able to take care of each other and take care of ourselves while we're going through this. So it's not going to be, say, something that is going to be going away anytime soon. So we've got to endure it, as we have not had to endure things in this country for a very long time. We went through epidemics in the past. We had, say, the big influenza epidemic after the First World War, and also during wartime, during, say, the um, Civil War, the First World War, and the Second World War, especially. We had to make do with changes in our routine. Say this is going to be very different than any of them, but still share some similarities in that it is going to be a prolonged period. Probably, so I doubtful say as long. Doubtful that it will be as long as when we had to endure the Second World War, the Civil War. but perhaps close to the First World War, because remember we entered that fairly late. Um, we only got into the war in 1917, and the war ended um, early, mid fall the next year. So it's going to be a while. Maybe not as long as that, but I'm going to say probably getting close to that. Okay, so the Swedes, as you probably are aware, have been trying, say, a different route with this. They're trying for herd immunity. And the problem is with that, there's a lot of problems with that kind of procedure, I believe. One of them is that we don't know, say, whether that would be in any ways effective dealing with this virus, because the thing is to say is well, from what I see, the facts actually don't bear that out as a likelihood. They think they're trying to treat it just as we did, say, say preparations for an influenza epidemic. But the thing is to say that that COVID-19 and the flu are not the same beast. It's not the same beast. It doesn't affect the immune system quite the same way. We say we are not quite as prepared to build up a resistance to this, given, say, a lot of things about the disease, including the fact that, say, that we have not had to deal with this disease before. So the Swedes have taken a pretty daring route, and it doesn't look like it's working out for them. So the government is saying, "Oh, it's working great. We expect herd immunity within a few weeks." Well, good luck. Good luck with that. But it certainly has been at the cost of a lot of people in Sweden. Say Sweden has a higher death rate regarding the coronavirus than many other places in Europe right now. Certainly much higher than any of its neighbors in the far north of Europe. Certainly more than Denmark, more than Finland, more than Norway, and so forth. Part of the problem is that part of the problem is hubris. That there is kind of a little bit of exceptionalism going on here. And if you want to know what exceptionalism is, exceptionalism when it comes to, say, kind of like nationalities or countries is the kind of idea to say that because I am this, I am smarter, better, more able than other people, or there's something special about me being who I am and being a part of what am I part of. And there certainly is a lot of exceptionalism in that regard in Sweden, as you will find here in America and in a lot of countries too. So, a lot of people talk about American exceptionalism, but say we are not certainly all that exceptional when it comes to exceptionalism. You'll find it all over the world, but it doesn't affect the policies of each nation quite the same way that it does here in the United States, and quite the same way that it does in Sweden. But the kind of idea is that, say, because we are Swedes, we know what we are doing, and because we are Swedes, we will be able to handle this better than anyone else. And at the very beginning of this, when they saw just how the economies were crashing everywhere, and that everyone was going stir crazy inside their homes, the Swedes were saying, "Oh, look at us! Look at how smart we are. We're able to go out. We're able to enjoy ourselves. Hey, let's have a party. Let's have a party. Let's bring everyone together and have a good let's be Swedish party." Oh yeah, come on, fill in the room, fill in the room. Oh yeah. I'm feeling great. Come on, shake my hand. So it's I think it's a pretty foolish thing to do, and it seems to be borne out in what's happening, say, in nursing homes in Sweden, where you're having a very high infection and death rate, unfortunately, and that's because apparently they didn't factor in the fact that not everyone who is affected by the COVID-19 virus shows symptoms of it. Like I said, you can be asymptomatic, you can be affected by it, you can be a carrier of it and not show any signs of it. And so, when you go, you seem perfectly healthy, you go visit grandmom and you pass it over to grandmom. So, they didn't take that in consideration, and they're blaming the quality of the care facilities themselves. It's they're doing a lot of pass the blame over in Sweden right now, as we are too in a certain way. Okay, so let's see, I go on a little rant about this because the arrogance of it is really quite appalling, I think. Okay. So let's move on into, well, unless anyone wants to do a little check-in as well. Please let us know if you're in the chat. Please let us know how you're doing. Please say hello. And anytime you want to do that, please do that. Please, please always feel encouraged to step in with anything. But let's move on to doing some topics from from our courses, from ethics and critical thinking. So I uploaded a two rather substantial videos for the Kant lecture. And oh, okay, Gabriel says I'm living a new normal. Yeah, I think that's gonna have how it's gonna have to be for us for a while. And I think treating it as a new normal is not an unhealthy way of doing it. You know that you are able to say still find say things in it from day to day that can give you, say, a certain amount of satisfaction and joy. It's not impossible. Say, kind of like just just staring at the calendar, just waiting for it to end, might not be the best way to deal with this. Find say something that is going on that you can do right now that can give you a certain sense of being active, of being involved in something. Uh, do pick out I sent out a list of books I would recommend that are fun to read. You can look through those, or you can look through just pick up something that you wanted to do for a long time that you can do indoors and do it every day. Do it as often as you can. Make that your routine, and that is going to take your mind off of this. I say, Jeff says, "Hello, Dr. McHugh. Hello there. Hello there." I'm sorry, Kenneth. I called you Jeff. I sort of like combined the G and the F part of your last name with your first name. So sorry about that. Okay, so hello there, Kenneth. Okay, and Bridget says, "Are you still available for one-to-one talks and go over some things?" Absolutely, I am, Bridget. I'm absolutely, I absolutely am available to do that. All you have to do is get in touch with me, suggest a time, and in all likelihood, I will be available for that time. In all likelihood, I can always make time. Because where am I going to be? I'm going to be right here. So, always very, very happy to do that anytime you want to do that, Bridget. And that goes for any of you as well. Okay, Esmeralda says, "Hello. Luckily, I just got off work now. All right, thank you very much for joining us. We're very lucky to have you, Esmeralda. So we were just sort of transitioning back and forth from beginning to talk about say stuff for the courses to talk about say stuff of how to handle what's going on right now. I had an idea for a story that is a parody of the world of Pokemon. Because in the world of Pokemon, everything revolves around Pokemon. Um, say all science revolves around Pokemon. Pretty much all activities, everything seems to revolve around Pokemon in one way, shape, or form. And I often wonder myself, how can a world like that function? How could a world like that just keep on going when everything is centered around, say, uh, uh, finding, capturing, and battling Pokemon? How the hell can that actually work out as as a whole world filled with people with different interests, different needs, different concerns, and so forth? How the heck could that work out? So I had an idea for a story where it turns out that the world of Pokemon is just a simulation occurring in a spaceship, a massive spaceship carrying a colony of humans to a distant planet. And the journey would take many generations to get to the destination. So they had set up a program to keep human beings occupied while they are confined in the spacecraft. And what is keeping them occupied is this ceaseless, pointless, but for the majority of them, all consuming activity of raising, capturing, and battling Pokemon. Some people say, this doesn't make sense. How could this world actually sustain itself when everything revolves around Pokemon? say, there's not enough people to farm. There's not enough people to keep the sewage running. There's not enough people to do anything really because everyone's just involved in Pokemon. And the people who figure these things out, they're actually kind of like discovered by the Pokemon guardians of the program, and are captured and put to death if they want to fudge with the program, and if they don't, they're asked to kind of like to serve as guardians themselves to help keep the program running until humanity is able to finally reach its destination. This far, far, far distant planet that they are going to be colonizing. Okay, so I bring that up just because keep kind of like keep it like that. Keep this idea that say that what you have to do is find something that is going to keep you occupied and keep you running for as long as you can while we're dealing with this. Because like Gabriel said, this is going to be the new normal. Now, this is what we're going to have to deal with for now. This is what we're going to have to deal with for the sake of not just ourselves, but also the people we care about, and also the people we also care about, which are the people that we don't know but could know and should share some kind of bond with because they are fellow human beings. And that will be our transition into talking about Immanuel Kant. That'll be our transition to talking about, say, the inherent worth and value of each human being. Because that was a question that a lot of people got wrong regarding utilitarianism, say, the in the third quiz. The third quiz last question, I think, was, why does John Stuart Mill want to protect the minority against the majority? If the minority were ever to become victimized by the majority for whatever reason, in whatever way, shape, or form. And the reason being is because of what the minority can contribute to the majority. What a lone voice could possibly bring to the world that has escaped the attention, escaped the interest, escaped the notice of everyone else. That maybe that lone voice who says, that that the uh, that the sun does not revolve around the Earth is not stationary, but it is in fact, say, the Earth and the other planets revolve around a star, or revolve around the sun. That say that lone that minority against the majority, and it turns out that minority could be the one that's correct. Remember to say that when it came to things like uh, um, say Einstein's theories of special and general relativity, they were not, say, immediately accepted. They were, say, the insight of one person, which gradually started to influence a lot of people, but not overnight. There was some resistance to Einstein's theories, and say it took say experiments to show that, say, the data actually supported it, such as say the existence of a black hole and how they work. Okay, so that's the thing. Say when it comes to, say, the value of the minority, it has to do with what they can contribute. It has to do with the consequences to the activity of individual persons. Individual persons should be respected because, first of all, say we don't expect, say, they're right, say that can come back and bite us in the end, say when we turn out to be the ones that are on the outs. If the that famous expression, um, that famous quote about, say, the person who didn't stand up against the Nazis. When they came for the Jews, I did nothing. When they came for the Gypsies, I did nothing. When they came for, say, the political dissidents, I did nothing. And then all that was left was for them to come for me, and that's how it can wind up. So, by protecting the rights of the minority, you also protect the rights of the majority, and also you make it possible for the minority to actually do something that could actually benefit the life of the majority. So it's all about, say, the consequence, that an individual can can produce, say the consequences the individual produces. It's not their inherent intrinsic value as persons, but rather the value we can get out of them as persons, the value we can get out of them as individuals, and the value we can protect for ourselves by protecting their individual rights. So it's not about, say, something that just has to do with them as persons, as just individual human beings, but what we can get out of them as individual human beings. That is going to be very different for Kant. So that is going to be very different from Kant, because for Kant, you can never treat people as a means to an end. And utilitarianism is all about, say, what kind of ends we can get out of someone, or any kind of like activity. You know, is it going to make me happy? Say that's the end. That's the consequence that we're looking at. Okay, Alex says I always get confused about who's for what regarding the ends only or the intentions. Is Kant more for intentions or the consequences? Kant is entirely about the intentions. Consequences are a problem for Kant for a number of reasons. Number one is that we really can't say if something is a good or bad outcome absolutely. Say it's always conditional. And when I say it's conditional, I mean it's good only if certain conditions are met. And in this case, the condition being, say, whether I think it benefits me or not, or whether, say, I just kind of like arbitrarily say, here's where the effects end when it comes to, say, this action producing this effect. I say, well, here's the cutoff point. It's made me happy. You gave me a burger. That burger went into my stupid face, and it made me happy. I chomped it down. It went into my ever expanding gut, and it made me happy. Say that's a good consequence right there. So it was good for me to get that burger. But keeping it kind of like just at that point of, say, of that kind of like that point of immediacy, or even kind of like thinking in things more long term, you really can't ever kind of like find that end point where we can say that was a good thing that happened. Because yes, even if we do think in the long term, like maybe it wasn't the healthiest thing to eat, maybe I could find some maybe a better alternative for food. But even then, I still got some enjoyment out of it. I was still able to kind of like feel happier eating the burger than eating the non-burger. And maybe because I wasn't feeling so happy eating something else, I wasn't as productive. Because I wasn't as productive, I didn't do as good of a job as a professor as I could have. So maybe that's the consequences we should be looking at. According to Kant, it's too conditional, too arbitrary looking at consequences. It's too arbitrary to say that, say, something was good because we like the results, because the results always have to do with just whether you think it somehow benefits you according to, or that it's maybe even like generally beneficial, but that still is going after, that still is dependent upon, say, a very kind of like limited outlook. When I say has a good consequence for enough people, now, do I have the power to like look into each one of their lives and see, say, how it is really affecting them or not? Do I have the power to like look into the future of the lives of these other people and say whether this really was, say, the right thing for them or not? Kant is going to say, no, no, you can't do that. We have these built-in limitations when it comes to our understanding and knowledge. We can't know the future, and we can't really kind of like find that point in, say, just the evidence presented to us of whether, say, things have been finally satisfied or not. We just can't do that given the limitations of knowledge. Another thing, so that's one thing, that it's arbitrary, and it is just it is just kind of like messily conditional, say, whether good consequences means that the action was good. The other problem too for Kant is that it is, say, looking at, say, the actions of people and looking at people themselves as a means to an end. That say that if we're talking about, say, good consequences are what makes good actions, that means that I would value people. I would value, say, what people do in whether it has served an end or not, whether that person has served a kind of purpose that I imagine in my own kind of like thinking of, say, how things are supposed to serve me, or my own idea of how it's supposed to serve other people, how it's supposed to, say, serve my idea of what's good. So I'm still looking at people as if they were just tools to bring about what I want, or what I expect, or what I prefer, or whatever it is that within my limited understanding and my limited ability to see what's out there, whether it is actually kind of like meeting that expectation or not. While at the same time, says Kant, every person, so far as they have a mind, and he says, all human beings have mind, all human beings have the same kind of the same kind of like basic fundamental structure for experiencing, for thinking, for judging. That say, since they all have the same kind of basic fundamental structure for their understanding, for their knowledge, for their perception, for their experiences, it's also the same thing when it comes to their ability to act. We all act with a sense of us having freedom and responsibility. And so this means to say each person is free, or we're working on that as an assumption. We can't know that for certainty, so it's not concerned. But say, just in the way in which each person is dealing with this kind of like basic fundamental structure, we are all dealing with these same basic conditions, which give us a sense that we are free, that we are responsible, and that means that each one of us has a potential to be moral. Each one of us has it in them to be a free, responsible, moral agent. And if we look at people as if their value is not in their ability to be free, responsible, moral agents, but in whether they are going to meet my expectations for what I would like to get out of their activities, then I'm ignoring, say, something really fundamental about them, says Kant. I am not treating them as people. I'm not treating them as human beings with freedom, moral responsibility, those kinds of things. I am simply treating them as a means to an end, as something that will fulfill my expectations, my wants, meet my preferences, meet my desires, even kind of like meet my own arrogance in thinking that I have a uh, very good understanding of what is finally going to be a benefit to everyone. Okay, so those are the two basic reasons why, for Kant, say it's going to be, say, what our intentions are and not the consequences. Because number one, consequences are conditional and arbitrary, according to Kant. And number two, because that, say, a consequentialist ethics will ignore, say, something basic about us and treat us as something that we are actually not. Now, there's another thing too there and too where you can say, well, how would intentions finally make us moral? And that goes to the third thing for Kant. The third thing is that if all of us have the same basic conditions for understanding, for perceiving, for judging, and for understanding ourselves as free, active participants in the world. The way that we engage the world is always as if we are free and responsible. Remember, we can't really know because that goes into the world of the thing in itself. We can never get to the thing in itself. But since this is what we're dealing with, then the same conditions apply to everyone. And that means that the universal condition of reason applies to everyone. And so if we want to find a way to actually deal with people as people, it's not to look for what is going to be pleasing and what is going to be satisfactory in a kind of like sense to say, I do something that is going to make me happy. what we do is we try to submit ourselves to the rules of reason, because the rules of reason will apply to everyone and will apply to those things about people which are shared by everyone and will actually deal with something fundamental about them, vis-a-vis their freedom and responsibility. The fact that we are always dealing with free moral agents. And so if we intend to be moral, to Kant, that means that we are looking beyond what is just going to make me happy, and we're not looking at, say, whether it's going to make anyone else happy either, because again, that will be conditional and arbitrary. It will be about, say, whether I intend to make my actions conform to rules which will apply to everyone, and in applying to everyone will treat people as they are fundamentally, as having inherent value, freedom, and just intrinsic worth and purpose. Okay, so that's going off on a long answer. So let's see what people are saying right here. Kenneth says, I think Kant was right. Kenneth says we can't just live our lives according to the consequences of our actions, because I think that would make life miserable. Aha! But remember, Kenneth, the reason why you would say opt to not following the utilitarian route is not because it would eventually make us miserable, because it's not about, say, the consequences of whether we do this program or that program, whether we follow this philosophy or that philosophy. It's not about, say, whether it's going to make us miserable. It's going to be about, say, whether we are actually treating people as they are, as human beings with intrinsic worth and value. That's the key thing. It's not about, say, whether it's going to make people happy or not. It's going to be about, say, whether we intend to treat people as they are, as they are, as we can only imagine them to be. According to Kant, we can't actually function as people who deny in ourselves the basic freedoms and responsibilities that we have in our own actions and also in other people as well. We just can't think that kind of way without falling into massive contradictions in our assumptions. Okay. Alex says, I think it takes a blend of the two, because you can't be too focused on consequences or intentions of an action, because both matter in the end of it all. Okay, well, say you might be right about that, Alex. But Kant is going to ask you, say, that when you talk about, say, things mattering at the end of it all, what do you mean by that? What do you mean about, say, things mattering at the end of it all? Do you mean, say, kind of like at the end of time? I know that, say, that focusing on consequences is going to be, say, somehow going to be right. What do I mean by that? Do I mean, say, something like a benefit? Do I mean that it is good because it will, say, make us a happier people, or make us more satisfied, personally satisfied? Say, what does it mean for things to matter at the end of it all? Because if it is going to be because it's going to make us happy, make us satisfied, make us have a sense that we are all, say, doing better than we were before, Kant is going to say, sorry, that's not something that you could ever adequately justify ethically, because it will always be, say, too conditional and too arbitrary. Now, again, you could still be right, Alex. You could still be right, and Kant could still be wrong about it. But Kant is still going to put a test to you and see whether you can actually defend that kind of statement, and do so in a kind of way that it will be not a contradiction. If you say that consequences matter, defend that in a kind of way where you say to Kant, Kant, the criteria that you're using to judge, say, consequentialism is wrong in a certain way. Say it's not, say that this is the best we can work for. We have to watch out and say whether human beings, whether just us limited human creatures, can even just kind of like operate and function. We must satisfy ourselves somehow in order to do that. This actually will somewhat satisfy Kant, because Kant is about say the fact that say that you shouldn't do say something that is going to be limiting say the freedom and responsibility of people, and certainly taking away their ability to even do such a thing would be doing that if I can't function properly because I'm not adequately meeting my maybe my everyday selfish personal needs. The question is say how much is that? How much is that say to what degree are we talking about here? Now here's the thing. Kant is not a crazy person. Kant is not a crazy person. He doesn't think that this is something that we can do all the time. He doesn't think that say that we can ever really kind of like get away from our sentiments, from our desires, from our passions, from our feelings. And he's not even kind of like saying he's not even saying that we should do that. What he is saying though is that if we want to talk about being moral, if we want to talk about say actually being moral, it's about the intentions and not the consequences of the action. Alex says, but Professor, do you think that Kant never left Königsberg hurt his moral thinking? I do not. Due to the fact that he never experienced the whole world or got exposure to other cultures. Here's the thing, though. Königsberg is a port city. Königsberg is a port city. It's a city where people from many different countries came in, trading their goods, stopping in town, meeting other people. Kant got to know a good deal of people from many cultures, and he was widely read. He was able to kind of like just like ourselves, he's able to get a lot of secondary information about other cultures. As a matter of fact, he was so interested in it that he is practically the inventor of the field of anthropology. When we look about say where does anthropology come up say as its own academic discipline, Kant is the one who invents it. Now he didn't do say he did say what came out of it wasn't anything that we would say is all that acceptable. Is Kant unfortunately does make a lot of racist assumptions in his anthropology, but he's still very very interested in other people and other cultures, and he still is managing to get a lot of contact with other people and other cultures, just as we do, without having to move around as much as we do ourselves. Say people come in to trade and to work. And also, it's not true that he never left Königsberg. He didn't travel too far outside of Königsberg, but it was not unusual for people to not travel very far out of wherever they lived either. So even if they were famous scholars, it wasn't that too uncommon of a thing to happen. It's just that say that kind of like got blended in with a lot of other things about say Kant's personality that kind of like magnified it into say something much much more than it was. Like the fact that say that Kant never ate any meal except dinner, and he always did it at the same exact time, or that he would always follow a very rigid schedule when it came to his work, when it came to say kind of like meeting people and so forth, when it came to kind of like going out for a walk or smoking a pipe. The fact to say that Kant had a tin ear, he didn't really enjoy music apart from military marches. Say all of these things have kind of like come together to form a rather cartoonish and unfair picture of Kant. And I don't think it really hurt his moral thinking. I don't think so. I think it really doesn't seem to be to make that much of a difference, unless you can tell me. Alex, please tell me why you think that would make a difference in his moral thinking for not being as exposed to other people as he could by traveling. Because certainly he could be more exposed to other people, other cultures by traveling. But would that necessarily have to make that much of a difference? Let me know. Let me know. Let me know what you think about that. Because right now, I really can't see it, because first of all, he was more well exposed than we think. But even if he wasn't, he still had an idea that I think is defendable. I'm not saying he's right. There is a lot of problems with Kant's philosophy, but it's still a very strong philosophy. It's still a very strong philosophy, and we are still dealing with a person who has more of kind of like an understanding of things than we give him credit for, including the fact that he is very much aware this is not an easy thing to do. Even if he lived nowhere else but Königsberg, he had enough exposure to human beings there to know that by and large we like to do things that will make us happy for ourselves, and that we will come up with reasons that will justify it just for ourselves, justify things because of how it satisfied me at any given time. Now, Kant is going to say this is something that we will probably never get rid of, but that still does not mean that we can't do, say, something else. We're never probably going to get rid of, say, our likes and dislikes, or our personal feelings and so forth. And Kant is certainly not making the argument that we should. But he's saying that, say, if what we are looking for is to act morally, this is what we do. And I think that when we apply the categorical imperative, you'll see that, say, what comes out of it actually sounds fairly practical. Yeah, that's not the intention. It's not, say, whether it can actually work out or not, but you can actually see how it could work out. Okay. Africa Bambata says, I like big butts and I cannot lie. I'm out to smart over here. Oh, very good. Good for you. All right. So, Alex, please give me some follow-ups to that. Why do you think, say, it would hurt Kant to not be exposed as he could to visit other places, other cultures, and so forth? Certainly, it's not always the case. Say by going to another place, another culture, that I will actually kind of like improve one's outlook on things. If you carry certain prejudices with you, that can sometimes be magnified if you go other places. The people who went from England into India in order to, say, subjugate India and turn India into a portion of the British Empire. The people living there certainly did not all come out of it, say, with a deep appreciation and understanding of the Indian people and culture. Far from it, more often than not. So, but it's still a point that can be made. Say, to what degree does, say, getting as much exposure to people as you can give you an improved philosophy? But tell me, where does the improvement come from? Why isn't an improvement? Why does it have to be there to actually um, make it a better philosophy than it stands right now? Because again, Kant is not denying this aspect of ourselves, that we have differences and so forth. He certainly is not denying that, say, we can't see things differently, that we can have different points of view, different exposures to different environments will create different kinds of thoughts. What he is saying, to say, deep down, even when we have different thoughts coming out of it, we all have the same basic process for how thoughts are made, for how judgments about things are made. It still will be the same basic structure for thinking, even though many different kinds of thinking, many different kinds of ideas can come out of it, it will still have the same basic structure. Similarly, he's saying that when we talk about ourselves as doing things in the world, when we understand ourselves as active people in the world, it will always work the same basic assumptions about our freedom and our responsibility. So even though we can come up with different ideas and have different points of view and even have different preferences, wants, and desires, and so forth, if we want to be moral, we have to look at the fact to say that how we rationalize what makes us happy as being good is to look at, say, something that could only apply to specific instances having to do with me and my understanding, which makes it conditional, which means that I can't find a universal basis for being moral. Now, according to David Hume, remember, David Hume is Kant's big opponent right here. David Hume says this is inevitable. We all have different perspectives, we all have different points of view, and all of our moral ideas will basically come back down to me. back down to my individuality, back down to what individual experiences I can have, and what kind of individual passions, preferences, desires I can have. It will all come back down to my subjectivity, which means there can be no objective basis for morality. But Kant is saying, yes, we can have an objective basis for morality. If you look at the fact that say that deep down, everyone still operates with the same basic conditions. And these basic conditions do have moral consequences. If we all operate as if we are free and responsible and have a kind of like a sense of moral obligation, that means that deep down everyone is a free agent, a free person, and should be treated accordingly. So we have, say, not only the means, but also the subject. We also have kind of, the why we should do this, why we should look at people universally rather than, say, judge things and say whether it meets a particular arbitrary and conditional point of whether it satisfies or not. Okay. Alex says, I think exposure to people or other cultures with an open mind to see where people of different backgrounds come from can only improve one's moral thinking. Due to the fact that, yes, not all voices will be helpful, there will be voices that do help and make the thinking more reasonable and blended to create a stronger and more acceptable thinking. Okay, all right. So there's a lot of things in here that I think are absolutely true. If we do approach other cultures with an open mind, say we can actually find things in those cultures that is going to make a positive difference. You know, for ourselves and also for those other people as well. But the thing is, say for Kant, even if we do use that as, say, a standard, at what point can we say that this satisfies a condition of objectivity? Can we ever come to a point where we can say that this is actually making things right? That say by making things better for myself and better for other people, at what point can I say that this is right for an objective reason, for a reason that satisfies a universal condition? Say, would I always be looking at it, say, just as a matter of self-improvement? Would I always be looking at it as a matter of, say, whether, say, a mutual benefit is coming out of the encounter? That's what the utilitarians are looking for. But say where, say, that the importance of that mutual benefit comes in for the utilitarian ultimately comes back down to say whether I feel satisfied about it. Like if you talk about saying, that people should be benefited generally for objective reasons, that everyone should be respected in a kind of way because this will be beneficial to everyone. We have to talk about, say, what we mean by a benefit for everyone. And according to, you're not going to come down to, say, an adequate answer that will be beyond, say, just something that is going to meet my understanding of what a benefit is. Or even kind of like, when I talk about, say, it being a benefit, can I really look into the future and know that this is going to be a real benefit, that it will not actually turn out to be something quite different? Kant is not saying abandon, say, looking at things to say whether it's beneficial or not. He's looking at, say, he's talking about, say, abandoning the idea this is what we base an ethics on, that we base an idea of how we can, what ultimately justifies an action is whether good consequences come out of it. He's saying abandon that idea. Don't abandon consequential thinking, period, but abandon the idea that say this is where we are ultimately going to get our justification for moral thinking. Because if we do that, we will never actually satisfy the very things that we are looking for. If we are looking for an idea of a real and long-standing benefit, or whatever a benefit could mean for everyone, according to Kant, we will never actually meet our own conditions. It would be, say, something impossible to do. And that is why he's saying When you do ethics, don't approach it as a consequentialist. Approach it as a deontologist. Approach it as a person who is looking for, say, not for benefit, not for good consequences, but whether you have utilized the goodwill, whether you have put the goodwill into action or not, whether you have directed your own thinking and your own actions to something that isn't just about whether it satisfies your own idea of whether it is beneficial or not. That is the challenge that he's offering us. Slicey Slicer asked, "Are you a Christian?" Well, I let the cat out of the bag in another video. Yes, I am a Christian. Alex says, due to the fact that yes, not all voices will be helpful, but there will be voices that do help and make his thinking more reasonable and blended to create a stronger and more acceptable thinking. Okay, again, say, oh, actually, I actually just I read that not too long ago, so I addressed that. I addressed that point, and again, he's not saying don't go out there and be unconcerned about say whether what you're doing is beneficial or not to you or to other people, but he is saying don't have that sense of benefit as the basis of your moral thinking, because as I said earlier, say what we are looking for are rules that will respect everyone, rules that will respect the basic things about everyone, and let's respect our basic freedom and our basic intrinsic worth as free human beings, says Kant. Now that means, say, treating everyone as a free agent, which means, say, making sure that there is enough ability for them to be free, which means, say, certain basic things have to be met. People need food, people need water, people need shelter. Without these things, they can't be free moral agents. It means, say, having say, not being a totalitarian, because a totalitarian does not respect the basic freedom and moral agency of each person. So that means to say there has to be, say, whatever government we have has to have a certain amount of leeway to it. There has to be a certain amount of personal freedom. The personal freedom to be, say, a person who, won't even commit to the goodwill and will commit to, say, personal satisfaction instead. That's their choice. We have to respect the fact that they can make that choice for themselves. So it's actually a liberal kind of world that comes out of the world of Immanuel Kant. It's a world that when we talk about say what liberalism is, liberalism, say whether we're talking about say John Stuart Mill, or we're talking about Immanuel Kant, has to do with the individual liberty of each person. There has to be enough, says Kant, for each person to be their own moral agent. Now, does that mean that Kant was a Democrat? Not necessarily. Kant lived and operated mostly under the reign of King Frederick of Prussia, sometimes called Frederick the Great. I don't think he was that great, but whatever. I don't generally think kings are that great, but that's another thing. That's another thing entirely. And Frederick the Great was known as a benevolent despot. That means that he was an enlightened despot. He valued education. He valued say say the advancements of the arts and the sciences and so forth. He was himself a very fine musician, so he valued music a good deal. What he didn't value was say things that would stand against what he regarded to be the interest of the state. And Kant does have a kind of thinking where he does say, we do have to have a kind of like a sense of there being things like an interest for the collective, because the interest of the collective will protect the freedom of the collective. The interest of say of laws that will bring about justice is something that is important for the freedom of everyone. So you may be surprised if say Kant was actually a supporter of capital punishment. I'm going to ask you the question, say, in the final exam about how a Kantian, not necessarily Kant, but how a Kantian should look at capital punishment. Look at, say, whether the state has the right to put a person to death and whether they have, say, when I say the right, I mean the moral right. Whether the state has the moral right to put a person to death, to actually carry out an execution of someone. Whether it is, say, not only that they have the power, but they actually have the moral power to do so. Kant believed they did. And many people were scratching their heads as to why this would be the case with his philosophy. Because it seemed to actually work against the freedom of the individual, including the freedom of the individual to improve, to actually be better, to actually kind of like take away their ability to be a free moral human being by killing them. And Kant says it's because, say, by the state killing this person, I will have fulfilled, say, a condition of justice that is true for everyone and everyone needs in order to feel free. And not to feel free, to be free, in order to be free to function as a free person. Now, many people don't believe that Kant actually followed through his own philosophy all that well. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that when we get more into Kant's philosophy. Okay, Alex says, I agree to that. I believe people have individual liberties and freedoms that no one has a power or right to take away. But maybe it's a cynic me, but I don't think moral rules are attainable for everyone to follow. Well, possibly Kant is going to agree with you. It's not that Kant believes everyone is going to follow these rules. Kant is not going to say something like, well, here are the rules. Once we follow them, everything is going to be great. First of all, that's consequentialism. That's not what he's going to base his ethics on. So I don't think you even have that in mind. But he doesn't even kind of like expect a lot of people to do this because it's frickin' hard. It's frickin' hard to do. But if it is the case, as Kant believes that he's found, a universal condition that applies to everyone, and that we know through the same condition and operation of reason that is operative in everyone, that everyone is subject to, and everyone is dealing with, whether they want to or not, whether they try to actively work against it or not. You can be the most surreal, random, and off the wall person that you can be, and you would still not be able to escape these conditions, says Kant. Your mind would still be operatable under them. You would still be working with these things as kind of like as a background assumption, even when you're trying to maybe kind of like work against them. It says, I'm totally free. I'm not even a person. I'm not even me. Blah, 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 blah. The I, according to Kant, the I is always going to be, say, a basic assumption of us. It's always working within, say, our capacity to judgment is a kind of like the assumption that it is the I thinking it. Now, Kant, of course, is not going to say, I know that there is a me here, that there is a unique individual irreducible I, some kind of like a personality that is beyond metaphysical doubt or controversy. Kant is not going to say that because he says I can't know this because I would need to have access to myself apart from how I understand things, apart from how I am representing things to me through these basic conditions of understanding and experiencing, the categories of the understanding, and the basic structure of judgment. Kant says I can't do that. So I don't know anything about, say, kind of like, the me that is in itself, except in the way in which I act. Except in the way in which I act. And the way in which I act is always acting as if this were true, that it is inescapable for me to have any other kind of way of being except as a person who assumes themselves to have freedom and have responsibility. So Kant says, while I can't know myself in itself as a person with freedom and responsibility, I have good, rationally justifiable reasons for believing that I do and for acting as if I do, because I couldn't help otherwise. And so here we seem to have a basic universal condition for everyone. And that means that the same kind of rules would apply to everyone if it is indeed the case that we are all free moral agents. Because if we treat people as if they are anything but that, and we treat people as a means for an end, that means that we are ignoring and violating that thing that is true for everyone, that we are free and moral. Okay. All right, Alex says they have to go now. Hope you stay healthy and safe during these times and have a great day. I hope you do too, Alex. And thank you very, very much for participating. As yeah, these were excellent points. These were excellent questions. These were excellent comments. So please, please, please do come up with other ones. Ooh, looks like I should be transitioning into doing things for the critical thinking course. Okay, so uh, does anyone have any questions about, say, the fallacies that we covered in the last lecture, in the last lecture video? You know, the no true Scotsman fallacy, the gambler's fallacy, the argument from fallacy, and the nirvana fallacy. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding those? Anything regarding those? I did see something that approached the nirvana fallacy while I was reading a recent article about say how Sweden was handling the pandemic. That a Swedish um, um, a Swedish doctor was saying, well, there's no way to actually adequately make it so that everyone would get the treatment they need and prevent death and anything like that. So why not do this? Well, no, no. Just because we do not have, say, something that is going to prevent death absolutely does not excuse the fact that we can have something that will slow down exposure enough so that we can actually find maybe a better treatment for it. We want to slow this down as much as we can so that we're say number one, the virus will have will will go its course eventually. That's what viruses do. But also that we might be able to find something in the meantime to better counter it, so that we don't have to kind of like deal with this all the damn time. Okay, so that's an example of the nirvana fallacy, because the assumption is that since we do not have a perfect solution, let's opt for say that we'll just opt for what we have right now. No. Simply because we do not have the perfect solution does not mean that we have to say just act as if we only have like two options: either the perfect solution or whatever bad one, whatever kind of like bad situation we're dealing with. And that's kind of the thinking that is in operation when you're dealing with the nirvana fallacy. It's kind of like as I use examples in the video, say people who say, well, we can never go back to, say, a pure state of nature anyway, so why even bother with environmental protection or anything like that? Let's just it's over. The war is over. We should just give up. No, we can still make things better. And also, while we are trying to slow the process down, we might actually come up with something that can make things even better down the road. Okay. Okay. Alex Abeta has a question not about the fallacies, but for the project. What if I can't get in touch with my group members? Oh, okay. All right. So the group members have not been responding back to you. Alex, tell me who these group members are. I've got them written down someplace, but send me an email telling me who your group members are, and I will get in touch with them, because this is something that has to be cleared up. And if they don't get back to you If they, if we just simply can't get them to get back to us, they've just sort of like dropped out of participating. That's something that we have to deal with right now as instructors. If they have dropped out of participating, then we have to kind of like rethink what to do. So I will find an option for you, Alex. I will not say what that option is because I do not want to encourage people to just kind of like abandon the project. I want them to try as much as they can to do this, but if it's just not feasible for a person in a certain group to move ahead because that group has just kind of like abandoned ship, I will find something else. Okay, so send me an email, Al. Send me an email telling me which what the group is, what you've been working on, what the topic is. If you have a topic, my goodness, I hope you all have topics at this point. By the way, groups have topics at this point. Have something that you can write on, have something you can do research on, have something that you can turn in a project about. And it's something that we need to be dealing with as a world. And what better time? What better time to look at what's going on right now and see what actually needs to happen? This is bringing so many things to the fore that people are talking about. Like when we're talking about, say, whether you know people actually need to be going to a workplace in order to do their job. When so many people were denied work at home requests. And it says no, it is essential that you be here to do your job. And they say maternity leave, no, you can't do that. You need to be here. Here's a situation where it seems to be giving lie to that kind of argumentation. But really, what a lot of them are talking about is just to say that we want to be able to have as much control over you as um, a business as we can, and better to have you here so that we can monitor what you do, monitor what you say, monitor what you think, monitor how you feel, than if you were back home. So there's a topic if you don't have one yet. Talk about, say, working at home. Talking about, say, why it's important to respect, say, these kinds of requests to work at home. Okay, all right. You're welcome, Alex. Yeah. So thank you very much. So I will get onto that today after I do my lectures. Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions about the group project? If Gabriel's still here, or if anyone else is still here from the critical thinking class, please do let me know. Okay, because remember, I've dropped the 4th writing assignment. That means, and this seemed to be a decision that was largely supported by the class. And so no one at that time said, well, I rather wish you didn't do that, Professor McHugh, because I can't even get in touch with my group members, or we haven't done anything, or it's not likely that we could do anything given the situation we're dealing with right now. I got none of that. So the blame should not be put entirely on you, of course, but say it's a blame that has to be shared. Will you upload an updated document for new projects, new government project? I thought I did. I'll double check on that. I thought that I did do that, where I talk about, say, that it is just going to be a written report and I want X amount of pages and so forth. I really apologize if I didn't do that. I thought I had done that. Ooh, 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 I'm worried. Ooh, 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 ooh. I so there's nothing like that on Canvas or anything like that. Ooh, shoot. Yeah. Ah. Okay. Well, that is something that will be going out immediately. Even if I have done it, I will do it again. And basically, it's going to be the same thing as what you were doing already, except there's going to be no presentation. There's going to be no presentation part about it. It's just going to be a submitted report. Okay. So I will make sure that everyone has that, and that it will be say something that everyone can finish. It's not going to be a big massive project. It's going to be, say, something that you can get done by the end of the semester. Trust me. Trust me on this. I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Argument from authority. Argument for from authority. Okay, but I guarantee you this is something that everyone can finish. All right? All right. So it's not going to be a big project, but it is going to be a project. Okay. So I will make sure that's gone out there. Okay. So thank you, Alex, because Lord knows I might have forgotten. Lord knows I might have misremembered and thought that I had sent this thing out when in fact I did not. Okay. So I will make sure that everyone gets it. I will send it out again to everyone. And everyone, please get in touch with your group members if you haven't already. Send them an email saying, I'm here. What do we got? What can we do? Where can we go from here? You can do it. You can do it. You say, and if you're dealing with something right now that is going to make it impractical, unfeasible for you to actually finish it, let me know immediately. Else, I have to work on the assumption that you have the ability to do the project, but you chose not to do it. Now, right now, we have to make a lot of concessions and make a lot of considerations for the fact that, say, we're dealing with a very extraordinary situation that is very, very hard on our students. But that does not absolve our students from all obligations and from all responsibilities. If you are dealing with a difficult situation, your professor has to know about it. Else they have to work on the assumption that you just decided not to participate any longer. That still applies, just as it did back when we were still doing face-to-face classes. Gabriel, yes, the project is due at the end of the semester. It's not immediate, but it is coming up. It is coming up. It is less than a month away at this point. Well, actually, let's see here. Yeah. The semester ends on the 21st of May. It is less than a month away. So that's still a good chunk of time for you to finish it and work on it. Remember, we don't have a fourth writing assignment any longer. We only have three things. The final quiz, the final exam, and the group project. Those are the last three things. We have the quiz coming up, I believe, on the 5th. On the 5th of May. So, it's not immediate, but it's coming up. It'll be, when we come back, after the weekend. Okay. So make sure you get in touch with me. I've got students who just appear out of the blue and says, oh, I'm just enjoying myself. So I'm just being lazy. Insufficient excuse. It is important for you to feel good right now and for you to feel, mentally, emotionally healthy, which does mean rest, which does mean relaxation. But you can't relax so much that you forget, say, your other duties. It's like saying, I just forgot to do my job, because it still is your job to still give me something, to give me some kind of indication of how things are working for you and whether you can actually do the assignment. If you can't do the assignment, we might be able to figure something out. But you have to tell me, or else no pass. Okay. I need a little water right now. I'm doing a lot of talking. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. All right. So, any other questions? Any other questions about, say, participation or group projects, or about the fallacies? The upcoming quiz will be a quiz on the fallacies. It'll be the fallacies that we have done since the midterm. Okay. So there very, very few people. I can't even. I think there might have been one or two. Very, very few people in our critical thinking course got 100% on the midterm. Very, very, very good
essay responses. I was very, 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 very happy with the essay responses for everyone. Everyone did a good job on the essay responses. And most of them got the full points for the essay responses, and well deserved too. There were a lot of people struggling, a lot of people struggling with the multiple choice questions. So if you are dealing with, say, something that seemed like a something that was really hard to understand from those, please let me know. Okay, Gabriel says, for the midterm essay, did I convince you on watching the Marvel movies? Well, I didn't need much convincing, but it you did make me want to go back and give it a second look. Yeah, so you did a very good job there, Gabriel. Because um, I never disliked the Marvel movies, but there are certain things in it that I thought were worked against them as, say, something that I can look back and say those were not just entertaining movies; those were great movies, and that is because it was difficult to feel all that investment in them for two reasons. Number one, anytime something serious happens, they got to undercut it with a joke. Number two, you didn't get that much of a sense that there was a world for them to protect. It seemed like that all that they were protecting was the clubhouse for superheroes. You didn't really get any kind of like investment in many characters that were not characters in a very high powered position, either in a government or in a corporation, or high powered literally because they were a superhero. It was just a big clubhouse for superheroes. You didn't even have that many reaction shots from ordinary Joe Schmoes and Jane Schmoes on the street, screaming their head off because something horrible is happening. I understand why, because we are still living in a post 9/11 world where we don't want to be exploitative of people seemingly in real dangerous situations, because many people around the world are still living that. But on the other hand, you know, not depicting them is neither going to make them go away, nor is it going to really kind of give me a real sense of what the stakes actually are in the movie. Okay, all right. So here's something I can do. How about I go over the questions that a lot of people had trouble with in the midterm. So that's what I'll do right now. Okay, so let me look at the midterm for critical thinking. Let's go over the questions for that. And I'll do the ones that more often than not people got wrong. Okay. Okay. So for number one, for the appeals to nature fallacy, the answer is C. It is both A and B. And so it's not just because something happens in nature that doesn't necessarily mean that something is inherently right or wrong. And it's also not just because nature can provide many different examples of many different kinds of behavior that conflict with the point we are trying to make. It's both of those. Both of those are what make nature the appeal to nature fallacy a fallacy, because our examples from nature are always selective and always at the expense of something else that could probably give us different evidence, and also because that even if we had a clear and coherent understanding of something that is universal to everything in nature, which would have to always also include ourselves, saying that it happened does not give us any kind of like argument as why it should happen. Why is it good that this thing happens? Why is simply because it happens in nature? Why is it a good thing, or why is it something that we as human beings should follow? So the appeal to nature fallacy fails on both those accounts. Okay, let's see here. Which other one? Number four. A lot of people got that one wrong because I think they are imagining, say, of me working from a kind of political angle here. Number four, the question was, who can be affected by the confirmation bias? And I have A, Republicans, B, Democrats, or C, everyone. The answer is C. You know, I've revealed enough of my own political position for you to know probably which way I'll be voting in the upcoming election. But both Republicans and Democrats are equally susceptible to the confirmation bias. It is equally possible for you to imagine that uh, that your own political ideology is impenetrable, and that no one can bring up any kind of like evidence to make you think that your candidate is not great or the other candidate is not wrong, or the people who would vote for this person are stupid, or that your person will eventually, inevitably win because it's just how things have to go. Everyone, everyone is susceptible to the confirmation bias. Okay, okay. What other ones were also ones that kept on coming up? Okay, number seven. Number seven. So the question is, when it comes to logic, you have only two alternatives. The argument is either valid or it is invalid. That is not a fallacy. And you can see I have that there as an option, C, no fallacy. Okay. These are informal fallacies, which means that sometimes we can find exceptions to the rules. The either or fallacy does not apply if there really are only two alternatives. And when you're dealing with an argument, you are dealing with something that is either valid or invalid. So it's either an argument where you can find that the answer. Oh, I just realized I forgot to include an important word in that. I just realized I forgot to include an important word. I forgot to specify that it's supposed to be a deductive argument. When it comes to logic, available only two alternatives. The deductive argument is either valid or invalid. I now owe everyone a point. Because the thing is to say, if we are dealing with not a deductive argument, but an inductive argument, that doesn't deal with validity because we're not dealing with an argument where the conclusion can be proven. So everyone gets a point for that one. Well, everyone will just get a point. Everyone will just get a point regardless of whether you got that one right or not, because I did not write the question properly. So I apologize for that. Okay. In this case, if you read that as a deductive argument, you are dealing with, say, something that is just valid or invalid. That means it would not be a fallacy. Or on the other hand, if you looked at it as just arguments generally, then B would apply because you do have the option of it being an inductive argument. And so it's not the case whether we're dealing with something that is valid or invalid, or just valid. Okay, so I apologize. I apologize for that. Okay, so I need to go and give everyone an extra point for the midterm. I'm going to write myself a little note. Add point to everyone's midterm. Okay. All right. Do you have any questions? All right. Oh, Gabriel says, I wanted to talk about the Fast and Furious movies, but I didn't have enough arguments as a superhero argument. Okay, and I get it. I get it. It's just whatever you have on hand. As we talked about, say at the beginning of the class. I expect good work, but I expect, say, as much as I think that could be reasonably expected, given the kind of time constraints that you're dealing with. So that's why I'm not asking people to do like 15-page essays and whatnot, where I have to have it kind of like the argument solidly logically proven at the end of it. Okay, so I apologize. I need to get everyone an extra point for that. Okay. All right. Number nine. Number nine is an example of circular reasoning. So it's where I'm sick of you telling me that my belief that the world is flat is not scientific. If the world's science has any meaning at all, it can't mean something that tells me that the Earth is actually round, not flat. Okay, so that's circular reasoning, and I deliberately modeled that statement off of what Antonin Scalia said. That if the phrase legitimate medical purpose has any meaning at all, it can't mean something that will a prescription that will cause death. Well, why not? You just say that's what it has to mean, but you've not given me any kind of like reasons or evidence as to why that's the case. It's the same thing happening here. They're just assuming the conclusion from the beginning. This is what science has to tell me because this is what science has to tell me. They're not giving you any sense of why it is, except that's what they would prefer the answer to be. And they've not even said anything like, it's good because I prefer that to be the answer. They've not added anything to actually justify their position. So that's why it's an example of circular reasoning. Okay. Pardon me just for a second. I need to go find a Kleenex to blow my nose. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I had to go get myself a new box. Okay. All right, let's see here. Were there any other questions that a lot of people missed on here? What's an other one? What's an other one the line people missed? Let's see here. Oh, I think say for number 17 and 18. 17, 18, and 19. That for some people here. Number 17 says, if we make a correct prediction in an inductive argument, our conclusion is, a lot of people put A. The answer is B. It's simply shown to be reliable as something that is likely to be true. It's certainly not say we're going to say it's neither true or false. What we're going to say is that we have increased the likelihood that we can rely on this information as true. Okay. All right. So number 18, which of these is an example of deductive reasoning? And the answer for that one is A. Solving a math equation. Say when you do mathematics, say you are following a certain set of guidelines and rules, which is say what deductive reasoning is. Deductive reasoning is rule following reasoning. When you play a game of sports, when you do a math problem, when you are trying to prove a conclusion in an argument, you're beginning with a certain set of rules that are limiting the possibilities of what the end result is going to be. Did the team win or lose or draw? Did the were you able to get were you able to find the value of x? Say that is going to be based on say following a certain set of rules telling you what you can do with the information you're given. Okay, so solving the math equation is A. I got C for that one. I think they kind of like guessed that since I included that as an option, that's probably the answer. Well, no, this is not. We're not doing this inductively. We're doing this deductively. Okay. Number 19. Which of these is an example of inductive reasoning? And the answer for this one is B. Predicting that your car will start if you turn the key in the ignition. But again, that's what inductive reasoning is. Inductive reasoning is the assumption that based upon the evidence you have from the past, that the future will resemble the past in a certain kind of way. To one degree or another, the future will resemble the past based on the information we have about the past. So if your car has turned on before because you have started it by putting your key in the ignition, say that's an example of inductive reasoning based on the examples you've been working with already. It is not about, say, showing your conclusion is valid, and so of course it's not C either. It's not either A or B. Okay. All right. Did anyone have any questions, concerns, or comments about the midterm? Anything at all, or if anyone wants to bring up anything else about the group project, any further questions or concerns about that? Anything at all about that? Okay. Well, actually, I'm wondering, say, whether since we haven't had much come up in terms of questions, does anyone? Okay, so let's do last call right now. Last call. Does anyone have any further questions or comments for the critical thinking course or for the ethics course? Anyone at all? Anyone at all about anything regarding these two courses? Because I see that we're down to 6 participants right now. So amongst those 6 participants in the chat right now, the 6 people following the chat right now, does anyone have any comments or questions at all? I'll give that a minute. Alex asks, will our final for critical thinking have a similar essay question format? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Okay. Esmeralda says, I'm good. Very good, Esmeralda. I'm glad that you're good. If you've got anything that you want to talk about at all, please let me know. And someone asked earlier whether I would. I think it was Bridget. I think Bridget asked if I still will do one-on-one chat sessions. Absolutely, I will. And that's also true for the rest of you lot as well. Any of you ever want to schedule a one-on-one chat time with me, I'd be very happy to do that. And don't forget, I'm available for phone conversations as well. Phone conversations as well. Say I'm not going to say what my phone number is on YouTube. If you're my student and you should have it already, it's on the syllabus. You should have, like I gave you plenty of opportunities to write it down, but if you can't find those things, because things do get lost, email me and say, what was your phone number again? And I will send it back to you. You end up trying the wine I recommended. I wasn't able to find it. I looked for it. I can't remember what it is right now, but I looked for it last time I was over at the store, and I wasn't able to find it there. I still have the name written down someplace, but could you give it to me again? Because I might be able to go to Trader Joe's later on, and I could try looking for it there, or to Ralph's. Costco has one. Okay, well Costco is a little far away from me right now. But I'll check and see if it's over at Ralph's or at Trader Joe's. And what was it called again? I got it written down someplace. I think I have it. I think I actually have it written down on my sheet with everyone's grade on it. Cherry pie. That's right. Okay, so I'll be looking for cherry pie wine next time I'm over at Ralph's and over at Trader Joe's. Okay. All right. And over at Trader Joe's, I will go get their a bottle of $2 Chuck anyway. So I'll be able to balance out the price, because I remember the say that you saying it was not an outrageously expensive wine, but a little pricey, But a pricey wine every now and again is just fine. Okay. All right. So anyone have any further questions? Anyone have any further questions at all? Okay. Now, 3 types, but any cherry pie wine is good. Myself, I prefer I prefer red wine to white wine. So I will whatever kind of like red varietal they have right there, I will get. If it's a red blend, if it's a Shiraz, if it's a Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon, I will get it. Can we still email you to get our overall class grade? Absolutely, you can. Absolutely, you can. And Alex, I can tell you, you're doing fine. Should be no surprise to you at all, Alex, that you are going to be getting a passing grade and then some. Okay, you're doing just fine, Alex. Actually, everyone who is turning in work, everyone who is turning in exams, everyone who is turning in quizzes is doing a very good job. There is no one who is not turning things in who is in trouble in this class. Everyone is doing, everyone who is doing something is doing enough to pass this course. So that's the thing. If you have not been turning things in, there's still a chance. The window is shutting, but there is a chance. So if you have any kind of like missing assignments, and also, if you've not heard back from me for anything that you've turned in, very likely I accidentally skipped over your email. Like I opened it up and then for whatever reason closed it, or I didn't come back to it, or like going through the emails trying to find all the ones where people turned something in. I skipped over yours. I didn't see it. So if you never got a grade back from me about something, you turned something in, make sure I know about it. Because every time you turn something in to me, you are supposed to be notified about the grade. So if you never got something back from me about the first writing assignment, the second writing assignment, the midterm, the quizzes, or anything like that, let know. And I will get you the grades for that as soon as I can. Okay, so I think we'll call it an early day today. I'm feeling pretty hungry. I think it's time for me to get some lunch. Okay, so thank you so much for all that you've been doing. Like I said, everyone turning stuff into me will be passing this course. So just keep turning stuff into me. Keep sending stuff in for me to grade, and you will be getting out of this with a passing grade. Okay, and we're gonna do just fine. We're gonna get through this. It's not gonna be going away overnight, or the next night, or the next night after that, but we will get through this. We will be doing fine, and we are going to have such a party. We are going to have such a party when all of this is over. We're going to throw the blast of all blasts. Well, this is over. We'll be dancing in the street. We will be filling football stadiums just to hug each other and to booze up and to kiss and to do all kinds of crazy things. It's going to be marvelous. I can see it happening. I can see it happening. It's just that, unfortunately, I think some of my favorite bars and restaurants might not be around any longer. They closed my favorite hot dog place in Pittsburgh very recently. It was the original hot dog stand. It's called the O's, and we often call it the Dirty O. And that place, they had such delicious hot dogs there. But say the place was famous especially for the fries. It was deep fried twice in peanut oil. And a small fry was enough fries to cover your entire tray. Woe betide the person who would order the large fry. Say they better have like a party of 6 to eat that fry with. It was an absurd amount of fries. Okay, that place closed permanently. So I hope your favorite places remain open. I hope everyone's doing okay. I hope everyone's say that you're finding something to do every day. Every day that will give you a kind of like a sense of interest. Keep developing your sense of interest in things. Reading something, writing something, drawing something, designing something, building something, whatever it is, just as long as it's not, harmful to yourself or others, do it. Okay. Notice I'm not being very Kantian right now in my recommendations, but remember again, we need to talk about, say, actions that will make this a world where people can act freely as free, responsible, moral human beings. So we do have to make sure that we are acting in a way that respects the basic ability to do these things, and that does mean, say, taking certain consequences into consideration. One of them is maintaining your mental health. If anyone at any time wants to chat about anything at all with me, just kind of like maintain your mental or emotional equilibrium, let me know. That's my job right now. My job. Okay. Gabriel says, when this all ends, we're going to protect the Earth more than ever. I hope you're right. I hope you're right about that. It's not always the case that we follow through on our resolutions, but we haven't had a world war since the last one. We haven't used atomic weaponry since the last one either. So sometimes we follow through on our resolutions, at least up to a point. So I do think that there is a good chance, a very good chance, of us keeping some important resolutions after this one. So I think this will make a very big difference when the elections come up. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but according to the Constitution, say even if we delay the election, even if for whatever reason they try to like postpone the election, Trump's term is still up. Say, if we go over the set of the time period allowed by the Constitution for a term, it's not still going to be president, and it's not going to be the vice president either. It's going to go to the Speaker of the House. So if they try to pull something like that, we can point out to them, you don't want Nancy Pelosi to be president, do you, Donald Trump? So just as long as there are enough people to enforce the Constitution, we're going to have a very, very interesting election, I think. Okay. All right. So take care, everyone. We'll call it a day right now, and be safe and be well. Be seeing you.